January 28th, 2013. That day will always be burned into my mind, because that is the day that me and Katie's lives changed in a heartbeat. At approximately 5 o'clock in the morning, as we were having a talk and coffee, within 15 minutes of getting up and talking, Katie quit saying anything. She didn't respond to questions. She just didn't say anything. So I thought that was kind of odd. So I asked her, "Are you okay?" Nothing. So I asked her again. Still nothing. So finally, on the third try, she looked at me and said, "I don't know." As I looked at her closer, I could tell that her lip was drooping. And it's like my heart just sank. I told her to raise her arms. She could raise one, but she couldn't raise the other. So I told her again, raise both of your arms. Still couldn't do it. I knew at that time that she was showing the classic symptoms of a stroke. So I immediately called 911, and the paramedics came out and checked her out and determined that yes, indeed, she needed to go to the hospital. Upon arriving at the ER, the doctors did their assessment, and they asked me like 3 or 4 times, how long was it before she quit responding, or you noticed that something was wrong? And I kept telling them within 30, 45 minutes. From the time that it happened to the time we got to the emergency room. And I questioned why they were so insistent on knowing the exact time. And I later found out why that was. You see, when a person has an ischemic stroke like Katie had, time is of essence. And if you can get a patient there to the emergency room within a 3-hour window, they can use a clot-busting drug to help lessen the risk of complications and even death.
Hi, my name is Katie Bolin, and I am a stroke survivor. One of the biggest problems that I've faced is the short-term memory. And I thought I was short-term memory then. This is a whole lot worse. John would tell me things like, go get a glass of juice. And I need to go get it now. No, not now. Just wait till we're done with coffee. So I finished coffee and I got up. And I said, I need to turn down the heat, or I need to hang that coat. Forgot all about the fact that I need to get, what was it, juice or coffee or whatever. I can't remember just now. I have some problem communicating with people, mainly because of my aphasia. I just can't get it out right. And some people just look at me like, oh my God, how can I do that? Last year, we were out on the deck, and I said, I hate that dog, I hate that dog. And he said, you hate that dog or like that dog? No, I like that dog, I like that dog. Unfortunately, the neighbors were right there in the yard, so sometimes my communication just seems to be rumbled, but they need to understand sometimes that what I say and what I do are two totally different things.
Now, the healthcare professionals, the doctors, the nurses, the therapists, everybody was absolutely wonderful. And they were really patient with Katie because she was not a good patient. She was at times very combative. You know, she didn't want to do the therapy and everything. And I think that's just probably what most stroke victims probably go through. And it's just the realization that this is where they're at. But they did a great job. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. They pretty much put her through the paces in the different forms of therapy, speech, occupational, physical. And by the end of the 20 days, I think they probably had enough of her and sent her home. But, you know, and all these things that they did, one thing they didn't do was prepare me for what came next. And it was a shock. It was a shock to have someone that you love and care about and has spent so many years together to be like suddenly a different person. This beautiful, well-spoken, intelligent, vibrant woman was reduced to pretty much being like a child. Some of the things I weren't prepared for was the communication, and Lord, it's still at times, we affectionately call it stroke-a-knees. She'll say stuff, she'll mean one thing, but what comes out of her mouth is something completely different. And for those who may be unaware, that is a condition called aplasia. She can, if you're talking about, she can look outside and want to say the sun is shining, and she'll say the wind is cold. It's just, it gets to be kind of a guessing game of trying to figure out exactly what she's trying to say. So again, we just affectionately call it stroke-a-knees. Memory, that's another problematic area. She can remember things back probably 10, 20 years, but she has problems in remembering something that you may have said an hour or two, or even a day or two. But I have found that in most cases, the problem lies in that she can't multitask anymore. She's got to focus on one thing and one thing only. You have to get her undivided attention. So if she's on her cell phone looking at Facebook, you pretty much have to say, Katie, Katie, Katie. And then when you get her attention, she has a tendency to remember more. We also have this thing too that if she has problems thinking of a word, I don't tell her. I don't tell her what the word is. I will give her something like it starts with S or whatever letter it starts with, and say we're talking about my arms, and I'll just say, okay, what are these? What are these? And she'll eventually figure it out. So again, it's challenging in that aspect. Some days I'm better with dealing with it than I am others, but I try to be patient. But if I have a lot of things on my mind, I have a lot of things going on, I can become very frustrated.
Like it's been a month or so, they sent me to the doctor. And I don't even remember what his name was at the time, but he and another brother both had
Last name.
well, they both had last names and they were in the same building. Anyway, he talked about stroke for quite a while, and then finally he said, "You'll never get on the computer again." But you know what? I did. It's not the best. John has to do a lot of things, but it's okay with it. Unfortunately, I do more on Facebook than I do on that other thing, but it's okay. Another thing he said is that I'll never cook. You know what? I cook. In fact, most days I cook lunch. I don't cook supper because usually by then I'm already beat. Usually by 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm shot. But then I get up at anywhere between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. He said I probably wasn't going to clean house. Well, guess what? I do the washing and drying. I can vacuum. I can dust. I can vacuum. I can dust. I can sweep the floor. A lot of things like that I can do. When I was young, before the stroke, I was 250 pounds. I had a doctor down here. I don't know if it was in Georgia or if it was up here in this, but my obesity was very profound. I had diabetes, but I never took care of that. I had some problems with cholesterol, but not a whole lot. I had some arterial diseases, but it wasn't that much. All of these were factors in the possibility of having a stroke, but it wasn't that bad. Any of these things, you need to go see your doctor, or you're going to end up just like me. And I don't want anybody else to go through this again. Even Johnny, I don't want him to go through it. But one day we're all going to say, I went to the doctor and I found all of these, and let me take care of them now.
Obviously, our lives have changed dramatically, and but for me, like most caregivers, I experience depression, anxiety, worry, and most of it is because, I know that there's that risk of her having another stroke. But I've come to realize that, there's some things I just can't control. And as much as I want to take care of her, I've come to realize that there's someone else that needs to be taken care of too. And that's myself. Like one day I was looking in the mirror and it was like, my God, who are you? I mean, I put on excessive weight. There's sleep problems, fatigue, and it all boils down to the one thing. I've become so focused on taking care of her that I've let myself go. You have to realize that in order to take care of somebody, you have to take care of yourself. And I realize that now. You gotta exercise. You gotta eat right. You gotta get out there and socialize. You cannot isolate yourself from others. All these things can result in this hopelessness and despair. While we don't have the number of friends that we used to have, we do still have a few. And I'm really grateful for those few that we do have. They give me the ability to call them, and they will offer me words of encouragement. Give me that lending ear to vent when I become too frustrated. And honestly, I don't know how I would make it this far if I hadn't had that. I mean, again, even with the limited number of friends that we have, it's still nice to be able to have someone to call and say, hey, what's going on? And to have people that actually care.
One of my favorite things to do is he will take me to the sunflowers, to see the sunflowers, and they are wonderful. It's like having another voice from God, because everything is so serene and so peaceful there. It's winter time, so I don't do a whole lot because it is winter. I mean, we could have 40 inches or we could have 2 inches. It doesn't matter. But I like to do things like I'll do a puzzle. In fact, I have one right here that says, I'm a puzzle. I like to watch the squirrels. I love to watch the Discovery Channel. That has a lot of shows, especially detective shows. Video games, that's another one. Johnny and I will play video games quite a bit. In the summertime, I go out a lot more often. I'll be outside by 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'll take my little walker with me. But I like to go out and pull weeds and fix things and do things. I go out, there's a garden in here, And I've done that a few times, or well, actually a lot of times, where I can go out and get in the garden and fix it up. And in the fall, I'm doing tomatoes and corn, and I like to do the squash because I like to have it fried. I don't know what there's corn and beans and broccoli and all sorts of stuff, but I like to do that a whole lot. I enjoy going into the garden, into the flower garden, and I think my favorite is the petunia, and another one is the hostas, and it's mainly because whether it's sun or shade, they just do beautifully. I also like hydrangeas. I've got 3 hydrangeas that I put on the south side. And they're also very good, especially when it comes to semi-shade. And then I put a lot of lilacs in the upper garden. One of the other places we enjoy going to quite a bit is Lever's. But we have someone called Betty Lou who every morning will come and give me a big hug and tell me how I'm getting better every day.
How does it make you feel?
It actually makes me feel good to know that once in a while there's a friend. It's not very much anymore, but there is another friend. What I'd like to do is to get out and do more things, and one of them is to go to church. It's a Episcopal church, but somebody told me once, it don't matter where you go as long as you go somewhere. And that's the only church we have for many, many miles. So I will go there one of these days. Now, some things had to go a little bit differently in our lives. So I decided to get a divorce. And we did on March 11th of 2014. I got the divorce, and it was mainly because he never wants to leave. And so I thought, he's not going to find anybody because of me. He's not going to go looking. He's not going to do anything. So I need to let him go so he can find it somewhere else. And he hasn't yet, but he will. But now he's got something else. It was early September of 2015 that once again I had to go up to Grand Forks, and that's where I had the epilepsy, and that was because of the stroke. And ever since that, it's like he won't leave me, not for nothing in the world. He won't leave. And I think that's good, but I think it's bad in a way too, because he just won't find anything here with me just staying where I'm at. He needs to be going to other places. Maybe I'll let him get down there one day. Or maybe I'll send him down one day. He just needs to go. One of these days, though, I'm gonna call and see if there's somebody else that would like to do it. You know, to while he's gone for a few hours, maybe she can come and stay for a little bit. I don't know. You know, there's no friends or family that come visit you anymore. When I was very, very young, I had Tani. And Tani and I, when we were in high school, we could talk about anything. As I grew up more, there was Cherry. And Cherry was absolutely wonderful. I would go to her house, she would go to my house, you know, from Florida to Georgia. And she was just wonderful. I even had her in my wedding. But she doesn't come here anymore. Jerry and Awana are two of my favorite people. It was kind of sad because I didn't see her wedding. It didn't. I'm sorry. Nobody got it. Nobody got the wedding invitation. And Jerry, once in a very great while, she will write and say something, you know. But she used to bring clothes. Oh God, she would bring clothes like this. The last one is Johnny, because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have anything. He's like the most wonderful person in the whole wide world, and he's the only one that comes. Okay. I'm like 4 or 5 hours away from them now, up in Bathgate. And it's like, now I've got a couple are dead, and then I have a sister who, because of back pain, she can't go very far. And I have a brother who is on, he's had like 3 or 4 bypass surgeries and God knows what. So he don't really want to go far. And it's like, now we're all here, but none of us are close. But even that's okay. We're doing all right together. It's just that nobody sees anybody anymore.
We now live in a community called Bathgate in northeastern North Dakota. And it's a small town. And when I mean small, I mean small. We have a grand total of roughly 44 people in this town. So there's not a lot going on in this town. The upside to living here is that when we looked at buying this house, it was in the price range that we could afford. And I felt like it would give Katie the opportunity to get out and do gardening work, because it's something that she loved and she still loves, and be able to get out and grow a garden. Now the downside that I didn't realize till much later is that while the closest town, which is Cavalier, that's 15 to 20 miles away, has access to doctors and a hospital, they do not have doctors who offer more specialized medical care. This means that we have to travel to Grand Forks, which is 82 miles one way, every time she needs to see a specialist. And when you live in North Dakota, especially in the wintertime, that just don't fly too well. The snow and everything, especially for somebody from the south, it's not used to snow and the blizzards. It can be kind of difficult. So overall, it's been a good experience. We have a couple of friends here. We don't have people that come to the house. I mean, if we're outside, they'll stop and talk. But as far as just coming to the house to drink coffee or whatever, no, we don't have that. So, but it's okay. It's okay.
When John said, let's do a movie about strokes, I was a little bit lenient, and then I thought to myself, no one else has ever made a stroke. No one else has ever made a movie about stroke victims and what they go through on a regular basis. I had ischemic stroke, so it's like the left and the right and all that stuff. What they can't do is they can't say anything like me. Now, it's been 3 years, but there's some days where I couldn't put 2 words together. Nothing comes out. And then there's other days, like today, where I'm doing okay.
Okay, but wait. It's one of the few things that we have.
People ask me why I wanted to do this documentary. And to me, there are several reasons why I wanted to do this documentary. One is that it's therapeutic for me. It allows me to share our story with others, to let them know that they're not alone. And when you look at the number of individuals that have a stroke each year, you can tell real easily we are not alone. Sometimes I feel like that when things like this happen, we feel that we are, but we're not. We're really not. We just get caught up in our own little world that we just don't see it. So hopefully this documentary will encourage others to keep up the fight. Understand these things, like for caregivers, that you've got to eat right, you've got to exercise, you've got to socialize, you've got to take care of yourself. Because if you don't, who is going to take care of your loved one? If something happens to you, who's going to do that? You're not being selfish. I mean, to me, that was the hardest thing that I deal with, is that I feel like, okay, well, if I go out and I try to socialize, or I spend time away, or, I'm not there for her 24/7, then I'm being selfish. No, it's not. It's about taking care of yourself so you can take care of your loved one. Don't buy into that selfishness thought. For caregivers, I want to share this quote that I found some time back that was pretty much the turning point for me. It made me realize a lot of things. And it goes like this: life is full of ups and downs, twists and turns, love and loss. And life wouldn't be worth living if it weren't just that. You can't have the good without the bad. You need to somehow learn to accept the bad and adjust it in a way that you can endure and overcome. And that's what you have to do. You have to adapt to the situation. You have to find ways to turn this negative experience into something positive. That's what I'm doing. That's what Katie's doing. We're not victims. We're not going to let this defeat us. We're going to keep battling day in and day out. One day at a time, one step at a time. We will do whatever it takes. I refuse to feel sorry for myself. I refuse to let Katie feel sorry for herself. Yes, it seems like sometimes that we just can't go any further. But know that you're not alone. And there's hundreds of thousands of people just like you. They're trying to find their way.
I guess if there was anything else to say, it's knowing that some people have strokes, but to the particular person, keep fighting. Do what you need to do, and pretty soon you will be too. It's so far I'm sorry. So far, I've spent 3.5 years since my stroke. He says anywhere from 7 to 10 years before I even start to do things like talk again. But one of the doctors said, I'll never use computer again. But there I am. I'm on the computer. Someone also said, I'll never cook. But you know what? I can cook. There's a lot of things that they told me I'll never do, but I'm doing them. You need to keep fighting and keep doing and keep, more than anything, keep those that you love. But more than anything, keep those that you love in your heart and in your mind, because they're about the only ones you have left.
Together, we're trying to find our way.